released a statement on X saying, quote, emergency teams are responding. All passengers and crew are accounted for. The flight originated from Minneapolis-St. Paul. Senior transportation correspondent Chris Van Cleve joins me now. Chris, what do we know?
Well, John, we understand that some federal officials are hearing reports of some injuries here, but again, the airport says everyone is accounted for. There are images trickling out that show this CRJ 900, which is a regional jet. It was operated by Delta's regional carrier Endeavor, but operating as a Delta flight. The plane appears to be upside down, the wings and tail ripped off, the nose landing gear still in place. People are being taken off the airplane. Medical crews have responded in Toronto. The Toronto Pearson Airport had gotten a significant amount of snow over the last week. In fact, over the weekend, they were working quite hard to clear. It had been about 7 inches of snow going into yesterday. So weather conditions there will be something that will certainly be looked at here. But we're looking at another U.S. airliner. This one operated as a Delta connection flight that had an accident while or shortly after landing, in this case in Toronto. We don't know how many people are on board yet, but the airport says everyone is accounted for. We hear that there may be some injuries, but it does look like the cabin of the airplane, the passenger area of the plane, remained intact fully when whatever went wrong, and it went wrong with enough force, it appears, to have ripped the wings and the tail off the airplane, and it came to rest there on a runway in Toronto. Obviously, this is an unfolding situation. A lot of questions about how this could have happened. What could have resulted in this plane essentially flipping over as it was touching down or shortly after touching down from Minneapolis-St. Paul, John.
Chris, is there anything in that terminology, all are accounted for, that we should take any clues from or that can be put into any further context? Or are they just literally trying to give us the limit of what they know without trying to get ahead of themselves, which is also something we won't do?
I think it's that. I think it's an effort to not get ahead of themselves. We don't know how many people were on this aircraft. The airport says passengers and crew all accounted for. Certainly, they're going to have to be assessed for injuries. It would be almost unfathomable to think that no one was hurt in this kind of accident. So there will likely be some injuries. We are hearing that federal authorities are receiving some reports or some indications there were injuries. Because this incident happened in Canada, the Canadian version of the NTSB will lead this investigation. I've spoken with the U.S. NTSB. They are aware of this incident. They will essentially be invited to join as a party. They will contribute whatever investigators or research investigative power that the Canadian equivalent may need. But this will be led by the Canadians with the NTSB assisting wherever they can here. John, this comes after a real startling period of aviation accidents involving U.S. aircraft. If we think back barely 3 weeks ago, you had the mid-air collision over Washington, D.C. That killed 67 people. 2 days later, you had that Learjet crash in Philadelphia in spectacular fashion, caught on camera. We saw that. That killed 6 people on board, 1 person on the ground, 10 people in a Cessna Citation flying in Alaska en route to Nome. And then just last week here in the Phoenix area, that plane that had a landing gear collapse on landing and crashed into another plane, that killed at least 1 person and injured several others. Now we have this incident, which, fingers crossed, we are hoping what the airport means by accounted for is that everybody survived this crash, but we just don't know that, and we don't know the extent of any injuries just yet.
Chris Van Cleve, senior transportation correspondent. Thank you very much, Chris. We're now going to talk to transportation safety expert and analyst Robert Sumwalt, who joins us. Mr. Sumwalt served as the chair of the National Transportation Safety Board. What's your first reaction to this? A CRJ 900, Chris reports the tail and wings have been sheared off. It's upside down. Your thoughts?
Well, I think my first thoughts, John, are I'm glad to hear that everyone is accounted for. And hopefully, as you indicated, hopefully that does mean that everybody is at least okay.
And what does it suggest anything to you that it's that the plane is upside down, and obviously we don't want to speculate about things beyond the pictures that we're seeing, but or go too far. But a plane being upside down on the tarmac there, does that suggest anything to you?
Well, I think, as Chris indicated, it's a lot of snow there and on the airport, and I think that the airport could have been sliding and then somehow or another gone off the runway and gone upside down. So it's really, as you know, it's just a lot of speculation at this point. And we won't
go any farther than that. Help me understand the coordination with the Canadian version of the NTSB. Chris says they'll be taking the lead, but obviously, since the flight originated in the States, I would assume there's a protocol for NTSB working hand in hand with them.
Yeah, you're exactly right. The Transportation Safety Board of Canada does an excellent job, and the NTSB will be invited in as an accredited representative, since it is a U.S. registered airplane and U.S. operated airplane. NTSB will be invited in, so they will work hand in hand together to determine what happened here, and most importantly, come up with recommendations to keep something like this from happening again.
All right, Robert Sumwalt, former chair of the National Transportation Safety Board, thank you so much. Just to recap here, a plane landing at Toronto Airport has flipped over. The airport says all passengers and crew are accounted for. That's what we know at the moment. Our coverage will continue on CBS News 24/7, your local news, and tonight on the CBS Evening News. This has been a CBS News Special Report. I'm John Dickerson in New York.